Flipping the Pyramid. Flipping the Pyramid.
Well, there is the freedom that was promised to Oceania. There is no freedom of speech, no freedom of thought, no freedom of assembly, no freedom of the press.
Freedom is slavery! Freedom is slavery! Freedom is slavery!
What remains of the ideal of peace? Universal peace, peace with our neighbors, peace to till the soil, peace.
War is peace! War is peace! War is peace!
Whole of Oceania is plunged in ignorance. Universal and abysmal ignorance. Ignorance even of the most elementary principles of democracy.
Ignorance is strength! Ignorance is strength! Ignorance is strength! Freedom is slavery! Freedom is slavery! Freedom is slavery! War is peace! War is peace! War is peace! Ignorance is strength! Ignorance is strength! Ignorance is strength!
Listen to me. Please listen. If you don't, if you won't, if you fail to understand, then the same incredible terror that's menacing me will strike at you! I want you to get mad. You've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
I'm as mad as hell. Are you going to keep taking it? Hello, folks. Welcome to Flipping the Pyramid Radio, this virtual shamanizing with me, HairyCookieMunster. Yes, I am very, very hairy. Not so much a technical hitch at the very beginning, just me forgetting to press the button. Sorry about that. I left the microphone open, didn't I? Right at the start. A shame. Playing a classic in my opinion. Sorry, coughing at you. Yes, I'm trying to stick to playing at least something old, classical, whatever, that style. At least one, if I can, per episode. I'm sure there's plenty out there for me to choose from. I know there is. But, yes. Just trying to put in front of people some of the topics that we talk about, cover, and that has been covered within those kind of artistic mediums, music, etc. You know, some of these topics go back a long way. It's not necessarily something new. Just reminding people some of those tracks that are out there that might not have heard before. Keep them in the mix, as it were. Don't forget them for the message they carry. Anyway, yes, I'm rambling already. It is the 12th of the 7th of the 12th. Does that mean anything? I don't know, maybe. I'm sure we could make it mean something if we really, really wanted to. But anyway, yes, I'm not going there. Not exactly, but anyway. Yeah, sorry, distracted thinking about it then. Yes, what else was it I was going to mention? If you happen to listen to it, I know it's available as a podcast on the website flippingthepyramid.co.uk. We broadcast another episode of the Ecstatic Zen with Adonis and myself, just chatting in general. We were having a bit of a laugh and just talking about various stuff, but we sort of revolved around the theme of comedy and humour, etc. And I just thought it was quite interesting. There's a bit of a moral outrage going on at the moment in America over one particular comedian who it's considered that he went a bit too far, making jokes about rape, I believe the topics were, and they just so happened to have done Doug Stanhope do a little quick interview on RT, which I was surprised that he didn't say something a bit more cynical or satirical at them. He sort of did poke a bit of fun at them, saying, well, why have you got me on here to talk about this non-topic? But anyway, yes. Because I did ask Adonis, who was part of the sort of conversations, like, is there a line that you draw? Is there too far? When comedy goes too far, where do you draw the line? It's something to think about. It does relate into free speech, etc. So, moral outrage about the contents of your comedy. If you find the comedy unpleasant, then why are you looking at it? Different people laugh at different things. Yes, I have my own boundaries of what I consider comedy, but it's that's up to you, really. But I just thought I'd mention it because it seemed coincidence hat time. These topics bouncing around at the moment because Adonis and I recorded that show at least a week ago. So it wasn't as if all this was going on and that's why we were talking about it. It just so happens to be a current theme people are talking about. In a similar fashion, one of the other things I sort of wanted to point at, wave to, I'm not sure if it's because in a marketing kind of fashion, various people and groups using I was going to say propaganda, maybe you could call it positive propaganda at this current time. It's the middle of the year, just to sort of create a bit of a boost, buzz type effect. But yes, there seems to have been a predominance over the last week or so of the topic of consciousness, possibly linked into and fueled by the Higgs boson news frenzy, shall we call it. But at least it is actually putting that out into the public consciousness. As per usual, could talk about the usual kind of suspects, the mainstream media giving propaganda, biased perspectives on all this, on both sides of the fence, obviously. And that's sort of a general theme, pursuit I'm going to follow, rabbit I'm going to chase. But at least I'm not going to mention them by name because I think they get enough general traffic as it is, partly deservedly and partly for notorious reasons. But yeah, a couple of the big alternative channels have both recently released little sort of what you could call almost like featurettes, mini documentaries about consciousness. What is consciousness? Isn't consciousness great? Yeah, the one particular channel is sort of I think he found it a little bit difficult to talk about the subject because he has a preponderance for the fear factor. So you end up with this 30 minutes, approximately 30 minutes worth of him switching between, isn't consciousness great? Nature is wonderful. Look at how fantastic the universe is. But the elites are all going to kill you. They're coming to eat your babies. It doesn't sort of quite go, other than I'd sort of possibly put it on the shelf with a very subtle parody. It had somewhat of a comedic effect for me, but as I say, I'm just glad that it's a topic that people are talking about, maybe looking further into if they haven't before, maybe asking questions that they haven't before, or thinking about things that they might not have considered before. And that's the key, isn't it? Thinking, consciousness. Yes, so there you go. Just me making general observations at the moment, as I've sort of got into, or trying to keep in the flow of, as I've been doing recently. To start the show off, just talking generally about what I've been observing, what trends, what memes, what themes that I may have noticed, and what may have piqued my interest for one reason or another. So yes, anyway, now to sort of put the theme in play, to release the rabbit, as it were. Yes, I'm probably getting much more cryptic. I don't know why. Just seems to be appropriate at the moment. Maybe that's something else we'll mention later on. Yes, anyway, I'm going to play a couple of tracks. As I say, just to release the rabbit, to set the theme, set the mood, as it were. I'll be back in a few minutes. It's a bit of a retro style, but hopefully you'll like them. If not, you've only got a few minutes to wait. I'm back again, and then I'll wimble at you. Anyway, shut up and get on with it.
Flipping the Pyramid. www.flippingthepyramid.co.uk. We aim to discover the truth about our world and the issues it faces.
Whee, you're twisting my melon, man. Yes, we aim to discover the truth. And one of the truths I feel that I've observed or realised, I've talked about it lots before, revolve around that observation. Just to slightly backtrack, first track I played was Kansas, Carry On My Wayward Son. It may become apparent later on in the thread of things, but anyway, yeah, carry on. De La Soul, The Magic Number, and Happy Mondays, Step On, that was the last track. The Magic Number 3, it is a magic number. I'm not planning to go into numerology in any way, really. Yes, not in that direction. If you're interested, go and look into it. Some fantastically amazing stuff, fascinating stuff to find in mathematics and that particular observation or viewpoint of mathematics, numerology, etc. The I Ching, blah blah blah. Does it cross the boundary between the intuitive part of consciousness and the logical, constructive, pure mathematical side? Very, very interesting. But anyway, yes, things to think about. De La Soul, classic track I remember from when I was younger. 3, it's a magic number. I know to a certain degree they were talking around the fact that there was the 3 of them in the group, etc. But I still think there's a further message which they included in that. Now, observations on that triumvirate. I'm talking purely in a metaphysical sense of the triumvirate of 3. 3, our existence seems to revolve around the fact that 3 makes our physical universe work to a very large degree. There is the duality of the polarized effect of one side or the other, and then you've got the neither, or the in-between, the balance, the neutral, whatever you want to call it, the shade of grey. Yes, anyway, but I'm sure you could expand on that thought into lots of different things. You could think about the relations in nature, use of the three, how it examples itself in nature, how it exudes into our physical reality from that simple prime number that seems intrinsic to a very, very vast amount of what we know of the natural world around us. But I was looking at it more in reference of that polarization of things to do with the mind, the metaphysical senses, the concepts that we revolve around, ethics, etc., etc., things like that. Not necessarily things that have a physical existence. They certainly exuded into a physical existence by the things that we do. As we've talked about before with the whole 2012 meme, etc., even if something magical doesn't actually occur, you'll probably find that people will make things happen anyway, purely by their own drive, their own intention to see something different. Is that exactly what we're watching occurring across the planet at the moment? Well, there we go. That's roughly the rabbit I'm chasing. Just some observations. Now, I wanted to do this to sort of exemplify the one side or the other. You know, we could talk about the fear factor, the fear side, the angry side, the road into violence, the dark path, if you want to call it that, if you want to look at it in that way. Yeah, don't choose the dark side, Luke, turn away. I am your father. Sorry, slightly distracted into silliness there. But yes, the dark side. Just how, as I've said loads of times before, there's lots and lots of nasty stuff going on out there in the world, folks. If you can think of it, somebody's probably doing it right now, or they've done it in the past, etc., etc. The human mind has an amazing amount of imagination, and we can think up lots and lots of nasty things to do to each other, which is highly unfortunate. And I think a big part of the problem is that lack of, shall we call it, self-control or empathy, maybe, well, however you want to view that. That ability to come to a realisation that this is not a pleasant thing to do to somebody, so why the hell are we doing it? Yes, anyway, maybe that's something we're approaching during what's going on at the moment. But let's jump into some news as a sort of example, loosely connected, as I usually do, tenuously connected by a gossamer thread. But that's the way this whole thing works. Try sending this link in the chat room if it works. You may have already seen this little, it's only a little article on rawstory.com. This came out a few days ago, I think, talking about NSA chief, she's in the USA, National Security Agency chief, making statements about how, well, the title of the article is NSA chief, hackers causing the greatest transfer of wealth in history. Now, I just plucked this as partly as an example of the divergent sort of tactic of, don't look at us, it wasn't us, it was them over there, blame them, look at this hand, don't look at that hand. Yes, usual kind of propaganda sleight of hand to try and redirect blame. Yes, we could go off at a tangent talking about things like the anonymous group, etc. Are they doing things deliberately to enable the state agendas, crackdown, etc., etc.? Are they genuine? Are they controlled, co-opted, co-intel, whatever? Yeah, there's lots and lots of crap flying about like that, but I think it still doesn't deny the fact that there is grassroots genuine involvement in this whole thing. And considering even what Anonymous are supposedly notorious for doing, things which are generally just like DDoS attacks to shut a site down for a few hours or days or whatever doesn't exactly constitute hacking into a bank and stealing wealth. That doesn't seem to fit their MO in general. It's certainly a good disguise group to hide within for those criminals who want to do such things. Yeah, certainly. As I said, separate topic to look at and think about if you want to. I plucked it out as, I say, an example of that kind of shifting of the blame. Also, nicely adds into the agenda of the internet crackdown, shall we call it that? The totalitarianizing of the internet as it currently stands. This kind of stuff just makes you annoyed. What makes me annoyed. I'm not saying that Raw Story is trying to push this as propaganda. They were just reporting on the speech put out by the NSA chief. Sort of following along from that, there's a little video clip from RT, one of their little reports, doing lots of copy and pasting, multitask faster. I should get a degree in multitasking, I think, especially when I can't keep track of what page I'm looking at. I've got that many tabs and pages open. That's just the way it goes. But anyway, this was a little news article they put up. SOPA reborn by Congress as IPAA. Talking to, I suppose you call him an activist. Just talking about the fact that, as I think, if you've been looking at this kind of information for any length of time, you're probably well aware of the fact that this is now, the fifth attempt, at least, I think, certainly the fourth attempt for definite of them attempting to get this kind of legislation passed through, this is obviously referring to the USA again, so through Congress. But of course it links into the fact that this is not just affecting the USA, this is something that is going to be global. They've tried it in different ways, ACTA, SOPA, PIPA, all these different versions of basically the same kind of lockdown that they're trying to implement. Again, there's references into free speech and free access to information, the news, etc. And I'm not talking about the mainstream media dribble that they attempt to feed us and call it news. As I say, it's not something, even though this one particular piece of legislation might be relative to the USA, has knock-on effects that affect the rest of us. Reference people being extradited from this country, from the UK, because of supposed copyright infringements, etc. And Russia recently, I think, passed a bill that has similar effects. I'm not sure what it was called. It's something like the blacklist bill or something like that. I'm not sure if that's just the sort of media nickname they've given to it, but anyway. And of course, not to forget, blah blah, passing his executive order to be able to control all communications. They're trying to build a prison. But you're talking about the angry side of it. This kind of stuff just makes me annoyed. Yes, it makes me annoyed, but it doesn't make me want to react angrily. Maybe that, as I was talking about with Adonis on the other show, on the Ecstatic Zen, are we allowing them, and yes, I'm just speaking rhetorically, rhetorical question, etc., rhetorical observation, whatever, are we just allowing them to sanction where you are allowed to have certain emotions, so that therefore they can manipulate where those emotions go? I was referencing things like the usual kind of sports events. It's okay to get all emotional because your favourite team has won or lost, etc. In the same manner, are they attempting to push your anger in certain directions to make it a certain shape and colour? Do they want you to react violently? Do they want you to get angry and mad and annoyed and therefore react violently? Do they want you out on the streets rampaging and rioting and being destructive? In my opinion, yes, they do. Of course they do. It's to their benefit. It's the whole point of the militarisation of our homelands, of the hinterland. When the military front lines come home to occupy your own streets, it's about time you start questioning what the hell your government is up to. Because they only do shit like that when they think they're at risk for some reason. Why are they at risk? Because everybody's getting really, really pissed off. And of course, as I say, that's what they want. They want you to be mad and angry and annoyed, and that just trips you over straight into emotional, reactive, and usually angry and violent responses. I was planning to play another couple of tracks, but I don't want to play them too soon, because otherwise, I won't have enough left to fill out for what I want to do later. I'm trying to balance it out, folks. A little chunk of music with a little bit of me waffling, so that hopefully then it's not as boring. Maybe it's a little bit of entertaining, so that any information that might come along with it might actually approach you a bit more readily. But do I want you to get mad as hell? Yes, in a way I do. You have to get mad as hell. You have to get bloody annoyed first to start breaking down those barriers. But don't stop there. Carry on, my wayward son. Angry, violent reactions is not going to fix what is going on here. All you're going to do is replace one system of force with a different coloured, a different uniformed, a different smell of the same system of force. In my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, might is not right. If it is, eventually, on the infinite scale of just a logical observation, eventually there will only be one person left, and that's the person who was the strongest, managed to kill off everybody else. That is just an extreme hypothetical, but that's what that process, that's what that paradigm leads you to. Constantly playing around with that theme of violence, of anger, of retribution, etc., etc. Now, I'm not, please differentiate between justice and those kind of emotive knee-jerk reactions that I'm pointing at. Now, I think there is a big difference. Justice does not entail that kind of emotive reaction. You can get emotional and demand justice, certainly. Go for it. Like I said, you've got to get mad as hell first to start breaking down those barriers of denial. When you start realising just how much, just how often, just for how long you are being conned in one way or another and exploited in one way or another. If you don't get angry, then all you're going to do is put your head down and let them carry on shafting you. Are you happy to be a good little slave, or are you bloody annoyed of the fact of that realisation of what the hell is going on here? These people in charge are supposed to be working for us and working to make everything better, make the world a comfortable place where we can all exist, but they're not. It's like employing workmen to come and fix up one of your rooms, and then you go in there and find they're all just laying about doing nothing. It's like, what am I paying you for? I didn't pay you to all sit around doing nothing. See, I can't help myself but slipping back into injecting some levity, some humour, some of the lighter side. Yes, maybe I should now play a couple of tracks, because I'll reinforce the anger side for you. Yes, as I deliberately led in with that sort of rabbit persona, you know, deliberately trying to prod these certain things for you to think about. You're getting angry, maybe this will make you angry. Maybe maybe this track is just, you know, it's going to rip your ears off and assault you with the soggy ends. But as I usually say, if you really don't like it, just wait for a bit. There might be something else on that you will like. I will be back in a few minutes.
We are flipping the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid.
Hopefully that's back now. Can you hear me again? Just say yes or no in the chat room. Thank you very much. 111. Right, okay, I'll take that as yes then. For some reason the server had turned itself off again. Yes. Yeah, well, at least spotted it a bit earlier this time, so I wasn't waffling away for 20 minutes before I noticed. Yes, anyway, that was The Prodigy, Baby's Got Temper, Rollins Band, Liar, and last bit, which I'm not sure how much you heard of that last bit, was just a bit of Henry Rollins stand-up, world peace, talking about sort of round, you know, taking the mickey out of the world peace. And as I was talking about earlier, does it make you angry? Is that the kind of comedy that upsets you, that offends you, that kind of thing is not funny to you? Yeah, up to you. But I plucked that deliberately because I thought it matched in with that angry, violent response. Angry. What should we do? We should do horrible things to these people to try and impress upon them just how strong we are. We are so mighty. You shouldn't mess with us. Rah. Not that long ago, we got Bye Bye Miss American Pie. I did consider playing that as a track, but I thought it was a bit, yes, not exactly appropriate, really. In my opinion, by my choice anyway. But that may be Prodigy track, and a bit of Rollins, prod a bit of the angry gene in you. Just how often do our supposed leaders, politicians, have to lie to us, barefaced lie to us before people get annoyed and angry and see that in that classic cliche, Satan never lies. I'm not necessarily trying to say that they're all Satanists or that they are Satan. No, it's a phrase to express something. A liar lies. Can you ever trust anything that a liar says? How do you know when a politician's lying? Because his jaw's flapping. All that kind of stuff. Why have these become comedic cliches? Because they just carry that truth with them again and again and again. So why are you not annoyed about it yet? Yes, as I say, I can't. I'm sorry, folks, but I know I talk about some unpleasant subjects, and I'll often talk about that side of things, but I'm not that kind of or hopefully I'm not that kind of fearmonger. So I find it difficult to stick around that sort of perspective of things for too long, other than just as an observation of it, and to notice when they are attempting to pluck those particular strings. anyway, to sort of carry on from that, and to maybe now, in a way, a little bit revolve towards the other side of that spectrum. As I talked about earlier, that was what was painted on the back of that rabbit, big number 3. 3, it's a magic number. Anyway, yes. To dive back into some of the links I've got, news links, articles, etc. This is on the Yahoo News. I plucked this one from, but I've seen this article pop up at various points across the net. It's on most of the mainstream, etc. So, if you want to look for it, you find it easy enough. This is in the UK. Just looking at the title of it. Government puts army standby over security guards concerns. There has been a couple of little articles today. I think primarily these have come out yesterday and today, in the mainstream media, talking about the security arrangements around the Olympics, etc., and the company that is G4S. And we've talked about this subject before. Unfortunately, it's one of those topics that you can't avoid at the moment, because obviously it affects the UK greatly, London in particular. So even though I do, in my opinion, believe that there is a lot of definitely what I'd call fear-mongering type stuff going on around the Olympics event, it's also, as far as I'm concerned, undeniable that it is something that you have to look at, because it does have so many possibilities of what they could do with it. So that one particular article is just talking about supposed lack of security, and the fact that they're now going to be bringing more troops into London to do the jobs that the security people were supposedly going to do. Maybe if you're looking for casual work at the moment, going down to London, you probably pick up work working in the security, and supposedly, you can get in quite easy. Which is, another thing that I will mention shortly, but to just continue with where I was with this was in the Telegraph a few days ago. I think other people have mentioned this. I seem to remember Keelan mentioned it a while ago. On his broadcast the other day, last week. Al-Qaeda terror suspect caught at Olympic Park. It's from the Telegraph on the 7th, I believe. 7th of July. I just linked this in simply because I wanted to make the observation. If you read the actual article and follow up on it on more recent articles, it's curious how the suspect in question was allowed to move around the area, etc. And of course there were other arrests in London recently, so like a pre-crime arrests, you could call them. People that they are suspicious of are being picked up, swept up, ready before the big event is due to start. But yes, the reason I point that link out, point that connection out, is it was about a week ago, week or so ago, that the sort of sweep up project went off. These terror suspects were picked up, arrested, etc. And now, a week later, creeping out into the mainstream media is these other articles, topics, talking points about how the security isn't good enough. We're going to have more troops on the streets. Can we say PRS? Problem, reaction, solution? Problem, reaction, solution? Oh look, these terror suspects. We found these terror suspects around the Olympic sites. now a week later, oh, we need more troops to protect us against all these terror suspects. Yes. As I say, sometimes the drivel that gets passed around in the mainstream media, the talking points, the emotive talking points, that's commonly how they try to catch you, and certainly in the I mean, that's from the Telegraph. I was going to say, when you start going to the more tabloid side of things, the headlines get even more strongly emotive, more direct, more aggressive, possibly because they have to dig deeper through people's programming to pluck at the particular strings that they want to twang. But yes, as another side note, I did notice somebody linked the article on the Flipping the Pyramid website, which is cool, thank you, whoever did that. Shimon Peres cancels Olympic trip over Shabbat observance. Now, yeah, that is sort of, it's a really good cop-out, isn't it? Because, it is sort of, obviously, Jewish observance, he wants to, do his religious thing, but it's just so convenient timing, isn't it? Yet again, it's, I can't help myself but slip to the light side and just laugh at some of this stuff, just how crazy sometimes this emanates itself. Crazily it emanates itself. But yes, we are bouncing back from that dark side, looking to the light side. Yes, the mainstream media, as I say, yesterday, today, coming out with these little articles. I believe what's her face, Teresa, was it up at the podium in Parliament today doing her usual spin talk about, there are no problems with the security and all this usual kind of, like I said earlier as I played the Rollins track, liar. If you couldn't see smoke emanating from the back of her pants, maybe it's edited out on that parliamentary TV. You just never know, things like that. But anyway, yes, and that's not to take away from the seriousness of some of the possibilities of this stuff, folks. Please don't get me wrong in that respect. Grab you before you drift far off into that other polarisation, the extreme of that love and light side, the opposite of that triumvirate. We don't want, or I feel, my opinion, my perspective, we can't slip too far one way or the other. Otherwise, we will all end up just sitting around doing nothing, just saying, yes, let's all sing Kumbaya, and we'll all tell each other how much we love each other while the machine is busy putting a black bag over our head and dragging us away. Hopefully, I'm still hopefully optimistic that maybe something like is speculated in the kind of themes that are ascension or the Great Awakening or something like that. Yes, it would be fantastic if and when that happens. But at the moment, it's still growing, I think. To reference us background, I'll just mention that. Don't forget about the whistleblower Ben Fellows, who put out that information originally. I think I cannot remember the name. Sorry, the original radio show that he put it on. And now, as I say, it started to come out in the mainstream media. They cannot avoid the topic now, so now they're trying damage control and spin, and to take advantage, the problem reaction solution advantage, to put more troops on the streets. More troops will be in London for the Olympics than there currently are in Afghanistan. So, if you're not feeling somewhat agitated or uncomfortable by that prospect. I'm wondering, like, why aren't you already out on the front line yourself, you know, with those other military peoples? Because if you really think it's a good idea, supposedly we're at war with Afghanistan, supposedly. Well, not necessarily with Afghanistan, you know what I mean. We are at war in Afghanistan, and yet there are going to be more active troops on your homeland streets than there currently are in that war. Why? Why? Yes, before I burst into a Tom Jones rendition. But to reference that background to some of this, or some of the topics I was talking about to begin with, that uprising, that global uprising, civil unrest, civil disturbance, people getting annoyed and frustrated and fed up and ending up out on the streets. We have this week had the protests in Spain, in Madrid in particular, where you could say things didn't go very well, but then again that depends which side of the fence you're looking at it from. I think for those people that were honestly out there in a grassroots fashion of trying to, you know, make their cause heard and get some justice through free speech, opposition, etc., you know, without recourse to any kind of violent or destructive action, and yet the police went in there very, very directly. There's plenty of video out there available. Again, that's why often when I talk about these kind of subjects that are saturated in the media, I won't bother picking a particular article because they're easy enough to find. You know, you can look at this stuff for yourself. But using plastic bullets, rubber bullets, batoning people, you can find plenty of video evidence. So what has been occurring in Greece for a good few months has now spread into Spain. What was the spur for it? What was the key for it? I mean, arguably it goes back a long way, but it was primarily that kick-off of those austerity measures, putting extreme pressure on people in the lower income brackets, the lower living standards, etc., jobs disappearing. I'm sure you're very aware of the current situation. But that uprising, Greece is gradually, really, you could quite easily describe what's occurring in Greece at the moment as a civil war. You've got the rise of the far-right groups, in the one particular party, the Golden Dawn. Just the very name of it, just look into that for yourselves. Again, separate side topic, tangent, but very interesting connections. That situation, you look back in history, have even just a cursory examination of similar situations back in history. It's quite, I was going to say common, it's certainly par for the course that when the economic situations of a country become that dire, that desperate, you always get a rise of those far right groups, simply because people in a desperate situation are trying to survive like everybody else, so their concerns become much more blinkered and short-sighted, and the people who are most readily able to fulfill your immediate needs are the kind of people that usually fall into that kind of ideology, because they're more willing to take without asking, and to be only concerned with their own close-knit tribal grouping in a jingoistic fashion. I don't want to put an ism label on it of nationalism or whatever. I think a lot of these things have good and bad sides to one degree or another, to one way to another. again, we are revolving around that number 3, that observation of the polarizations. But you will see this again and again, and it's not strictly restricted to culture or time. It's purely restricted to a reaction within the organism that we call society. As people get more concerned with their purely sustainable existence, their sustenance existence, I should say, simple hand-to-mouth existence, subsistence existence was the word I was looking for. Brain works eventually. The memory banks are buzzing slightly. Then they become, as I say, much more short-sighted, much more blinkered, much more concerned with their own immediate surroundings in a metaphysical, psychosocial sense, their own immediate social groups. So it allows the growth, it encourages the growth of that kind of extreme sides of that ideology, or those ideologies, not just one singular. But that as well is now spreading up through Europe. We've been talking about this for well over a year. People have been talking about it for a good few years, since the supposed 2008 economic situation. That was supposed to have been the recession and whatever. As I keep saying, I used that article earlier about the NSA chief trying to scapegoat the hackers, calling it the greatest transfer of wealth. The economic crisis, the supposed recession, is the greatest transfer of wealth. Those at the top of the pyramid sucking like a vacuum the wealth from all of those below them. They're trying to eradicate all the middle class branches. They will either be poor and super rich or nothing else. That is what they're doing at the moment. It also adds into their, as Max Egan described it, that sort of corporatist conglomeration. They are securing their position, is the way I've described it before. They are reinforcing, they are bunkering themselves in an economic sense, and also in a physical sense for a lot of them. Some of the houses that are available, to point a quick reference at some of the general sort of pop culture memes that are bouncing around quite profusely at the moment, the zombie apocalypse meme, and there were some articles recently about the property trade in zombie secure fortification homes. The kind of home where you could defend yourself against a zombie apocalypse, all this kind of stuff. Oh dear. But in truth, in reality, this is people who can afford to, bunkering themselves in. The zombie apocalypse will be all those folks who run around like headless chickens when the supermarket shelves are empty. Anyway, yes, before I get distracted into zombie apocalypse again. But that uprising is becoming much more direct, much more on the street. A lot more people getting involved in these protests and in activism of one kind or another. Interesting to note as well, recently, the stuff going on with the Occupy movement in, I think it was in New York, with the SWAT team crashing into somebody's home to arrest some Occupy activists. Use of usual SWAT tactics, flashbang grenades, etc., stuff like that. Again, if people are not seeing how this is an example of the militarization of what is supposed to be their police force, their peace in constables, really that is, as a society, that is what that function is supposed to fulfill, isn't it? These are like the old sort of cultural version of the British Bobby. He's supposed to be the person who keeps the peace, who helps quell the arguments, to stop the arguments, etc. Oh, you know what I mean. But yes, a good example of that militarisation. And now we're seeing it in Spain. And don't forget as well, please, Mexico have had a lot of big protests recently. That hasn't hit our mainstream media here in the UK. I know it's readily available in the alternative media streams on the internet, but I've not seen it really mentioned in everyday mainstream media here in the UK. And of course, it's not just Mexico. There's other protests going on across South America. Again, a lot of it is to do with things like union actions, labour strikes, but this all relates to people's economic positions, their desperation, being pushed further and further down into the mud, because that's what's occurring. So where am I going with this at the moment? Mentioning about that civil uprising, bouncing between the polarities of that magic number 3. So originally I was revolving around the Olympics. If I could just get the links. Red passed up some links earlier. I'll drop them in the chat room if other people haven't seen them. If I can make the chat room work. This is from The Guardian. Waiting for it to open up. Sorry if I've got that many tabs open. Browser's going a little bit slow, chunky. On The Guardian, G4S Olympic security recruitment totally chaotic. You see what I mean? That general permeating out into mainstream media of primarily the topic that was brought out by the whistleblower Ben Fellows. So they couldn't avoid talking about it because the information he brought out was so relevant and of interest to people in general. The information got spread quite virally, I think, and created a bit of a outcry about it. So therefore, they've got to start putting more information out to, as I said earlier, it's a kind of damage control propaganda, swinging of the blame, and of course encouraging more troops on the streets. Thank you very much. Yes. So I think about time for another song. I've got a couple. Yes, I've got a couple that I will play for you. Again, a bit of a mix-up. Partly relevant, as I usually do. Tenuous connections. That's what we're revolving around. Yes, anyway, here's about 8 minutes or so of music for you. Hope you enjoy it.
We are flipping the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid. Yeah, funky tunes, get down with your bad self. First one was Chronic Vibe, I knew it was right, and that last one was Frank Zappa, I'm the Slime. I thought that was appropriate when I saw this earlier. Gallup have done a new poll. Hopefully that link works, don't know if it will. Americans' confidence in television news drops to new low. This is just again, from an interesting observation. It's just one of those things to make me giggle a little bit. Maybe a little bit ego driven of ego. I knew I was right, I told you so. But if you look at that article or look it up, it's only dropped by another 1%, but it's 1%. I think the main decline that's a bit obvious is from the
last year it was at 27%. Now this year it's down to 21%. Yes, do you believe or give any real credence to the mainstream media news? Obviously, as this is a poll in relevance to American audiences. If anything, I find that hopeful. Like I said, it makes me giggle a little bit in that kind of told you so fashion. Do a little leprechaun dance. It's a terrible ego buffing, but sorry folks, coughing at you. Laughing, it's good therapy, folks. You need to laugh now and then if you can find some joy in something. Hopefully you can transmute that anger into something more creative, something more joyous. Spread the information with a touch of hope and optimism, the lighter side of things. Hopefully now, sort of to a degree, not to any extreme degree, but I've spun you around a little bit around that pivot of the magic number 3. As I said, there's one side and the other. There is the duality, the one side or the other, and then there's the neither, or the in-between. That is the triumvirate in various ways. Both we see it both in nature and sort of metaphysically. It's apparent all over the place. But I think I've done enough to spin you right round. Yeah, I couldn't resist. I didn't plan to play that track, but it's one of those horrible memes that just gets into your brain, eats away like a worm, it never leaves you. Anyway, yes. Where was I? Yeah, talking about the Gallup poll. Right, yeah, I showed you the Gallup poll. That's enough of that silliness. Sort of carrying along with that kind of optimistic thing, talking about truth. Maybe I'm not necessarily presenting you some great earth-shattering piece of information or some secret insider whistle-blowing news info that is going to suddenly be the smoking gun that people are looking for, because I don't feel that that's what I do, folks. Other people do that very well. I seem to work better at helping people consider more the inner truths that you can find for yourself. There are a handful of truths. I have found so far a handful of truths, or what I feel are truths, that I can see or example or argue for around me in my existence. And as you're moving through those rabbit tunnels, through all this information, you'll often come across places that look nice and comfortable and seem right. Sometimes they can seem a bit too right in that Willy Wonka factory sense. There's yet another meme for you. But that was why I picked out that Kansas track. You have to keep an eye on the weather horizon. You have to keep on this wayward sun. Are you carrying your lamp, still looking for truth? That is the question. Are you succumbing to that cloying matrix effect of the comfortable womb? I did have one more link here, but to bounce out of that lighter side of things, and also to sort of carry on with trying to present some optimism. This was a story that's sort of, it's been bubbling away for a while anyway, if you've been watching this kind of stuff, but that was just recent news come out on the Natural News website about the situation with Monsanto at the moment. title was Monsanto could pay $7.5 billion settlement to millions of Brazilian soy farmers. This is talking about the legal actions that have been brought against Monsanto in Brazil because of some of their corporate activities. Of course, lots and lots and lots of info and stuff to find out about Monsanto. If you don't know about them, please go and check it out. I commonly rename them to Monsatan. Control of food, one of the best ways to control people. But anyway, yes, a bit of optimism there. Hopefully, that massive mega corporation is being nibbled away at, being brought into the light as well, being exposed and pointed at, and hopefully those people, those Brazilian farmers, can get some justice. Unfortunately, it might not be relative, considering, if there's that many million of them, by the time you subdivide the amount of the fine, each one is possibly not going to get a lot of justice in any kind of economic fashion. It's certainly not going to be able to fix the problem of cross-infection of their crops because of these Monsanto GMO seeds. But it is at least a start, a step in the right direction, hopefully, an optimistic step. Yes, hopefully. I'm not necessarily telling you how exactly to go about solutions. I feel that is up for you personally to discover, realise for yourselves and progress on for yourself. Everybody walks their own path. What you decide to get involved in, what you decide to apply your energy and effort, time and intent and spirit to, is your choice. I can talk about various things and topics and news, whatever, from my perspective, from my opinion. I can share with you my viewpoint on it, my ideas about it, my knowledge about it, etc., etc. But I don't want to push you in one direction or the other. I don't want to force you to do one thing or the other. It's up to you to decide. I'm just sharing some of the parts, some of the views of the horizon from my point on my path. Hopefully something might resonate for you in sharing of those frequencies. That's partly why I like to use music as well. Cause, I've talked about this before. Shouldn't sidetrack myself, sorry, into stuff like that. But I find it very appropriate as a artistic medium to often express things that we can't necessarily encapsulate very well into words or a topic that is actually a conversation. It comes out better through the emotive avenues of music. Again, as well, please remember, anger is an energy that you can utilize in a creative fashion. It does not have to be destructive. It can be transmuted to be constructive. But it is a very, very good driving energy. One more track I'm going to play before I run out of time. Partly because somebody asked, but also, it's been there in the background. I've been planning to use it at some point or another, because it is just so highly appropriate for me. It is one of my personal favourite tracks anyway. So, it's there. I'll be back in a few minutes. I think this is highly appropriate. Please consider, as I've said, that pathway that you're on and the thread of that, carrying on that wayward pathway with a weather eye on the horizon. Yes, back in a minute. Oh, cut it off a little bit early there, sorry folks, only a couple of seconds of the fade off the end. Yes, welcome back. Hopefully I've rambled around a bit, but at the same time nudge you to consider, to introspect and think about that magic number 3 that swings between the polarization. Are you revolving? Are you only revolving around those polarizations, or are you evolving from them? Are we going on in a spiral going upwards, or are we just revolving round and round, stuck on the wheel, going from one side to the other and back again? Those ups and downs of the economic cycle, swings of boom and bust. The pendulum seems to be swinging further and further and further as the years have gone by, and we're now in the situation we are in, with this crazy economic Ponzi money magic system, this tool that has been instigated to, as I said earlier, vacuum the wealth up the pyramid. Maybe if we start realizing some of those simple truths and carrying them with us, rather than sitting down and being stagnated by only one of them. Got to keep on looking, keep on moving, keep on evolving, hopefully. Yes, folks, thanks for listening. Thank you for being here. If you've got this far through it, thank you very much. Hopefully I've not waffled on too much in your ear roll. Hopefully you get something from it. Hopefully it might help you, nudge you along. Or maybe it was just a bit of entertainment for you, one way or the other. That's doing something beneficial, I think, in my opinion. Please check out the website, FlippingThePyramid.co.uk. And please as well, don't forget, check out the folks at Fin, freedominfonetwork.org, and listen to, they do radio broadcasts as well. Fantastic stuff being put out by Adonis daily. He's really putting in the effort there, folks. Every single day for I can't remember how months now you've been doing it. I mean, he's only had a slight break. Every day he's in there spreading the good news, spreading the good word, spreading the information, trying to connect with people, bring them a bit of love and joy and some good music. Check it out if you need some interesting, informative and entertaining radio to listen to, rather than the drivel of the mainstream media that's constantly pushed at us. There's a lot of choices now, folks, for this kind of medium. You've only got to go out there and look for it. It's all readily available at the moment, thanks to this fantastic tool, the internet. We should use it as we can, while we can. Reference your background in a circular fashion to some of the stuff I mentioned about that constant agenda to get some kind of legislation passed under a different acronym name, whatever they're going to name it as. They're ramming it through. Again, cursory look through history, often when things are this way, then it doesn't matter how you protest it or how you try to resist against it, they will push it through. The fact that it's been attempted so many times just leads you to that conclusion that they're going to do it one way or the other. Eventually it'll get to the point where they'll do it in a somewhat secretive fashion and then just announce afterwards that they've passed it, so you won't be able to do anything at all about it. So anyway, yes, make some use of it while you can, folks, and keep talking, keep evolving. Hopefully that's what we're here for, I believe, in my opinion. So we've got to add a caveat in there just to keep those trolls dancing. You've got to make them dance. There's got to be entertainment in one way or another. yes, anyway folks, have a good week and a good weekend, and take care, and I will chat at you again next week.